So what did Joe Biden do? He spent $312 million of your money to build a pier in Gaza into the Mediterranean Sea. And now what has the Pentagon said? The Pentagon has said, they've literally admitted that basically none of the humanitarian aid that they've offloaded off of this brand new $312 million port has gone to any of the civilians that they might say need help. Hey everybody, I hope you're doing great, and as always, I'm here with an update on what's happened in Washington, D.C. this week, so let's get started on all of it. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of waste, fraud, abuse coming out of the Department of State. The leader of the Department of State, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, he testified before the House Foreign Affairs Committee this week, and I took him to task over sending your dollars to the Taliban and other places that they have no idea where your money is actually going, even though they are sending your money out to other groups in other countries to do what they say are good things, but they really don't know what is happening. And I mean that as literally as you can take it. Now, you might remember that when Joe Biden botched the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan back in 2021, his reckless conduct saw American troops leave Afghanistan before the safety of embassy personnel that had to leave Afghanistan. And this led to the death of 13 U.S. service members killed at the Kabul airport. Now, you might be wondering why, after that had happened, after we no longer have an embassy there, after we're dealing with a terrorist entity there that we were at war with for 20 years, why have billions of dollars of your money gone to Afghanistan since the Taliban took power and kicked out the United States of America? And you might say, well, that's because America is a generous country and we send humanitarian assistance all over the globe, even to countries that are run by people that hate the United States of America, would happily cheer for our destruction, want to see our destruction, and are actively more engaged with other terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS that want to kill us just as much as they do. That's where your dollars are going. Now, I've long said that this is a massive mistake. The terrorist organizations that run these countries will just steal, divert all of the aid every single chance that they get. It doesn't actually make it to the people that you might say, well, they really need the help. And this week, we got proof that that's what's been going on with the Taliban. A new report from what's known as SIGAR, the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. It shows the Taliban has pilfered millions of dollars sent to Afghanistan in the form of humanitarian assistance. And although we don't have clear data on all of this, we do know that it's incredibly widespread. So picture this. The United States Department of State wants to help Afghanistan, or people in Afghanistan, so they partner with a whole bunch of non-government organizations, over 140 to be exact. Now, when they partnered with those organizations, you would think that after we send them billions of dollars, they would answer to America, the Department of State, the President, the American people, you name it, about what did they actually use those dollars for. Well, when this SIGAR, this special investigator, went and looked into all of this, what they found out was that when they asked questions of these groups, hey, please tell us, where did you send the money? What did you spend it on? Things like that. They only got answers from less than 50% of the groups that the Department of State sent your money to. They wouldn't even answer the questions about what they used your money for, how much money they gave the Taliban in order to go over there and do business, whether they were successful, anything. They wouldn't even answer, but they're still hoping that they get more and more and more of your tax dollars. And what has the Department of State done about this so far? Absolutely nothing. So I asked Secretary of State Blinken about this and whether, given the fact that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are operating in Afghanistan at the invitation of the Taliban, money pilfered by the Taliban would be used to fund attacks on the United States troops or our interests, any interests of the United States, or God forbid an attack at home. And all I got in a response from the Secretary of State to that question was an attempt to filibuster and really not answer the question at all. But that won't deter me. I'm going to keep fighting to make sure that your tax money is used wisely, doesn't go to these places abroad that hate us, want to kill us, that we were at war with for the last 20 years, but now let's give them all this money to run their government. Makes absolutely no sense. Let's talk about another place where your money has been wasted. The Gaza Pier. Now, you may recall that when Joe Biden announced during this year's State of the Union address that he wanted America to build a port in Gaza to deliver more humanitarian aid. And he did that. Now, at the time, Republicans said this was a desperate attempt by the administration to appease far-left activists that were blocking traffic and protesting on college campuses. That's what they were doing at the time. So what did Joe Biden do? He spent $312 million of your money to build a pier in Gaza into the Mediterranean Sea. And now what has the Pentagon said? The Pentagon has said, they have literally admitted that basically none of the humanitarian aid that they've offloaded off of this brand new $312 million port has gone to any of the civilians that they might say need help. Most of it has been stolen by Hamas and other terrorist groups. In fact, this port has become such a disaster that the Pentagon is now looking at alternative routes for delivering aid instead of using the brand new $312 million port that they built in record time. Wouldn't it be nice if we could build things like that in America as quickly as they did that, or use those dollars, that $312 million, to build things in the United States of America for Americans instead of wasting your money on people that hate us, that want to kill you? Those are the people that we're giving money to. Makes absolutely no sense. So let's talk about a couple of other things that are going on here. Switching gears, we're going to talk about a little bit about elections. Now, every day, communities are hurting because of the crisis at our southern border. Under Joe Biden, we've had more migrants slip through the hands of Border Patrol than under President Obama and President Trump combined. These illegal immigrants are coming through because they're essentially invited by Joe Biden. Now, he'll tell the American people, no, we don't want this to happen. But in the end, they're opening up the gates for these individuals. They got rid of the Remain in Mexico policy that said they had to stay in Mexico while any case for them is being adjudicated. They are inviting them in. Democrats are seeing this as an opportunity. They're seeing an opportunity in crisis. And blue states like Vermont and Maryland and California, they're allowing illegal immigrants to vote in local elections legally. They're legally inviting them to vote in elections, and this is already happening in our nation's capital as well, in Washington, D.C. In October of 2022, the City Council of D.C. passed legislation allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections. That means that everybody from an illegal immigrant that crossed the border in Mexico and made their way to Washington, D.C., to a foreign national working at the Chinese embassy, somebody we might call a spy, can vote for who will be mayor of Washington, D.C. This is outrageous, and it's happening right here in the swamp. Not for long. This week, the House Republicans, we did pass legislation prohibiting illegal immigrants from being able to vote in D.C. elections. This is a no-brainer. Obviously, this continues over into federal elections, not just local elections, but full state elections, federal elections for representatives, all the way to the President of the United States of America, which is what Democrats want. So we're going to keep you updated on everything that goes on with that piece of legislation. This week, I also introduced a piece of legislation to end surprise medical bills from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, I'm going to ask yourself, I thought people that go to the VA, why are they getting medical bills? They serve their country. What's going on there? So under current law, veterans are required to notify the Department of Veterans Affairs within 72 hours of being admitted to receive emergency care in a local hospital emergency room. If they're traveling somewhere, they're in some other state somewhere else, and they have to get emergency care, and they go into the local hospital, the Good Samaritan, or whatever it might be, they have 72 hours to notify the Department of Veterans Affairs that took place. Not everybody has a caregiver or a family member. They might go there by themselves with nobody else around them. And if they fail to meet this arbitrary timeline, they are responsible for the entirety of their hospital bill. Now, this has left a number of veterans on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars just because they couldn't navigate the federal bureaucracy fast enough in that 72-hour window. It doesn't matter if the veteran is unconscious or in a surgery or there's whatever, they're still required to let the VA know within 72 hours. And I'm working to change this because you don't know if they are unconscious, if they are in surgery, if they're on a host of medications. You don't know what's going on with them where they don't have an ability to actually actually notify the Department of Veterans Affairs, and that's why I introduced legislation to end these surprise medical bills. My bill would change the VA's antiquated rules to allow a veteran to notify the Department of Veterans Affairs 72 hours after being discharged from the emergency care. So what's the difference? Instead of being notified, or instead of having to notify the VA within 72 hours of being admitted, they have 72 hours from the time that they are discharged. That's the important difference. This change is going to allow veterans and their families to focus on their health and their recovery instead of having to worry about the bureaucratic red tape. This is a step in the right direction. I'm going to keep you updated on how that fight goes, how we move that legislation through the House of Representatives. As always, it is an honor to serve you. I hope that you're having a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all around town. I hope that you all have a great Memorial Day. I hope that you think about somebody that I don't hope that you had lost in your life, but I do hope that you take the time to remember somebody that was lost in service to our country, and I wish you all the best. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe. I will be back on YouTube with more exclusive content, so stay tuned.